Welcome to another edition of Out and About in Richfield. Steve and I are joined today by Richfield resident Don Frederick. Don has been a longtime Richfield resident, over 30-some years, and he has some fascinating stories to share about his experiences in World War II in the Army Ranger Battalion. And truly fascinating times that you did spend abroad during that time. And so I guess Steve and I, and Steve, of course, is a huge World War II history buff, but Don, we'd just like to, take this opportunity during this show to hear about how did the, Army Ranger Battalion begin? I mean, what was the genesis of that? And then, tell our viewers some of your experiences during that time.
Well, I was really in the 1st Battalion, or the 1st Division, 34th Division, Minnesota Division, Iowa, to go overseas in early 42. I think we left in about February, something like that, I believe. And we were on the seas for close to a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like being out in the North Atlantic. In that time of year, it was cold, the sea was rough, and it was full of German U-boats. I didn't care for that either. And man, it was cold. All I had between me and the ocean was a piece of canvas. And then we had some hammocks that sing inside that sheet of canvas. Well, they had so many guys on there,
Sure.
you couldn't, nobody had a bunk. But anyway, we did survive. We got over to Belfast. I can't tell you the date we got there in Belfast, but it took us close to, I'm sure, a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. We landed at Belfast, North Ireland. Never heard of it, never seen it before, didn't know anything about it.
How old were you at the time?
Let's see, I probably just turned 18.
Oh, wow.
Don, in 1942, when you first went over there was no such thing, really. I mean, in the beginning of 1942, the United States was looking for some kind of a unit that would be comparable to the British commandos, right? And up until that point, early 42, there was no such a thing as a Ranger.
Well, there really wasn't any commandos up until the start of World War II either.
Oh, okay.
And the guy that was really behind it was Winston Churchill. He pushed for that. And thank God that the British government had him leading that country in the war. It couldn't have been any better.
I'm going to move ahead a second. In July of 1942, that was the first big mission that the Rangers had.
50 of them attached,
50
yes.
of them, yes. And that was part of your, those 50 were part of your group, right?
Yes.
And that was the raid on...
That was led by my company commander, Captain Murray.
Okay.
And I had about 7, 8 fellows in my company that went on the Dieppe raid.
Okay. And that was Dieppe, which is on the northern coast of France. And that's an interesting mission if anybody reads about it in history books. But my understanding of it is, first of all, it was Mountbatten, wasn't the British?
Mountbatten was the man in charge.
He was the man in charge. He really wanted that mission. But my understanding was he and the other top brass never really got full clearance to do that raid in the first place.
Well, he wanted it pretty badly, and I'm not sure he was the man for the job. My feeling is he wasn't. He was a naval man.
Okay.
I think, a naval man. He wasn't a land officer.
And so the whole idea was Dieppe, which was on the border of northern France. They wanted to see what would happen if they were going to try, like a commando style of landing, and how tough would it be to crack the German defenses there? And it was a lot of Canadian forces that went on that raid.
Primarily 99% Canadian.
And the mission, I think, to say the least, was a huge disaster, I believe.
It was a disaster from the start.
Yes. The casualties there were terrible, right? I mean,
Oh, well.
there was what, 50 or 60% casualty on that raid, I think, of the folks that went on.
Oh, I got the book on it, and the casualties were, I don't know, somewhere between 6,000 to 9,000.
Right.
You know, that's a lot of people
Oh my goodness.
laying down on the beach.
Yes.
Over 6,000.
Yes.
Just think of it.
Oh.
Young guys.
Right.
Just think of it.
The
And
one
one of them was a really good friend of
One
yours
was
that didn't make it.
Lieutenant Loostelot, yeah.
The one thing from that raid that I've read is that even though the Dieppe raid was a disaster, they learned a lot from that they used when they did the Normandy landings.
They learned something that they had to relearn again. They didn't learn the first time. They didn't know what they were supposed to learn. They didn't know. But it was kind of a preliminary raid. They knew down the line someplace, they didn't know when, that the big one was going to come off, the big invasion. We knew that. We went over there for a picnic. But the island in Great Britain was being built up with troops, American troops all the time, till we had over 3 million people there.
Wow.
I'll tell you something. It's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. Yeah, it's a lot of troops. Well, the landings in North Africa. Again, the first mission your group landed on, that was in Morocco or near.
That was the 1st Ranger Battalion's first mission, really, was at Arzew, to take out those 4 gun batteries and Fort du Nord and open the Bay of Arzew up so that the 1st Infantry Division that was waiting offshore could make their landing and proceed to Oran after it was taken, those guns. They had to be out. Otherwise, you've got troops out there and the boats, and if you suck one of them, you're talking thousands of men.
Absolutely.
But anyway, we did our job. Terry Allen was the CO of the 1st Infantry Division. And he and Colonel Darby became very good friends during the war. We worked together quite a few times with the 1st Infantry Division.
Now, when you took out the 4 gun batteries that your Ranger group went on, tell us a little bit about that. I mean, that was a pretty daring mission. You got those 4 guns sitting up there, kind of on the top of a hill in place.
Well, up on a hill that overlooked the Bay of Arzew. It was a wonderful position, and they had Fort du Nord over to the right where the men were quartered, but in the gun positions where we planned to our attack, the men there were stationed there night and day. I suppose they got relieved once in a while. But when we took them out, we got in through the wire with the help of Bangalore torpedoes and broke through and captured all the French soldiers that were there behind the guns.
Well, let me stop you for a minute, because most people, I don't really think, the soldiers that were defending those guns were French Foreign Legion, right? They're French legionnaires.
Yes.
I don't think a lot of people realize that, for example, when Patton landed in North Africa, he was fighting. Oh, the French were defending the beachhead there, and there were French ships in the harbor that were eventually were taken out. But at the time, Vichy France was hooked up or controlled by Nazi Germany.
That's right.
And so, actually, it's amazing to know that American troops went over there. Folks like you, in that particular engagement, were fighting French troops.
Yeah, it is unusual because you go back to World War I, we were allied with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
we were allied with the French.
So after you attacked the four gun emplacement, then you moved further on towards Tunisia and North Africa?
Well, we stayed there on the beach there at Arzou. They had a beautiful little beach down there in the Bay of Arzou. And we stayed there about a month and continued training.
Okay.
And when this next mission came up, they flew us up to this airport there in North Africa, like Talep Airfield, I believe it was. They flew us up there in C-47. They took the whole battalion at once. We got up there without any trouble. As we were landing, we just started to come under a bombing attack. So they had a few Jerry bombers up there. And boy, we got out of there in a hurry. We were lucky to get out of there. So we got out of there, and then from there we went over to Gafsa. That's that oasis. It was a small oasis. The only thing I remember about it, really, they had some Roman ruins there.
Oh, really?
The Romans built and had when they were there.
Oh, wow.
And I hadn't had a bath for weeks. So, boy, we took turns going into that Roman bath. And it was hot. The water was hot. It was nice to get in there and get a good bath. Never had another one like it throughout the war. From there, we got this next mission to go up to what did I call that place again? Synod Station. They wanted us to go up there and take some prisoners. And we did. The British had a recon company up there. Did you ever hear of the British patrolling the desert? They call them Rat Patrol.
Absolutely. There used to be a TV show on called The Rat Patrol.
Well, we were the first ones that they met when we came up there to make that raid. They were running around North Africa there in jeeps and all that junk.
Yeah, with machine guns mounted on
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'd been watching Synod Station for us. They did our recon for us. And told us what we could expect. And they did a good job for us. And the following day, we took 2 and 3 people up at a time in this one point overlooking Synod Station. And give them a few glasses to look at, trying to figure out where each company was going to go. And that worked out okay. And the following night, the moon was out real bright. That's that's no good. So we had to wait till the moon went down. It was too light, it's like daylight out there. So we had to wait till that moon went down. Then we took off from our bivouac area in that ravine and headed toward Synod Station there, single file. And we got finally over where we thought in front of that Synod Station there, where they had their guns set up over there as a perimeter. We got in front there, and by flashlights, Colonel Darby was with us, and he controlled our movement with colored flashlights. He knew where A Company was, E Company, and F Company. A and F, you know where every one of us was. You could see us. And then, of course, we had our watch there that we decided which time we were going to take off. All 3 companies went in at the same time. And we didn't have to go very far when the Italians or German, I don't know who it was, opened upon us first. And then the battle was on. We overran them in a hurry. In fact, I don't think they were 50 feet in front of us. They didn't know it.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, they were, half of them were sleeping, you know, in sleeping bags, and they didn't know we were there. It's a good thing.
Yes.
But we overran them in a hurry. We only wanted 10 prisoners. I think we got a few more than that. But we got back to GAFSA. That was the front line at that point.
And how many wounded did you have? You had some wounded soldiers in your...
Yeah, we had 18 wounded.
So you're trying to make your way back with them.
We had one dead, and one, Elmer Garrison was in my company. He got killed. And then we had about 18 wounded. We got them all out. So that was a hurry-up mission. Boy, we got out of there because we had about 10, 12 miles to go to get out of there, you know.
With all the wounded.
Because after we made that raid, I really don't know what they had down in their gun battery. They might have had tanks, armored cars down there. They could have went out and found us real easy. If they had have, been bad. But they destroyed every man that was at that position, every one of them. How do we know? My friend Ted came back there and about 30 days later after we took that area. And he had a camera. He took a picture of the burial ground there at the station on top of the hill. Who was first? The American, Elmer Garrison. They put him first. And the rest German and Italian. There was close to 80 of them. 80 of them that was in that position that got wiped out that night inside of 20 minutes.
Oh, my gosh. And from there, where'd you go, Don?
Well, from there, let's see, we got back to GAFSA, and then we had to withdraw. The Germans had a big push on, and we had to withdraw back to what they call Ferriana. It was a very little railroad town, not very big. Ferriana. And that night we got back in there. I got called up for guard duty. I was just a plain sergeant then. And I got assigned to a building that looked like a Quonset hut. So I went down there on the time I had to be down there. And I went inside there and I didn't know what to expect. I got in there and all of a sudden, out through this one door, here comes General Patton.
General Patton?
Yeah, General Patton. And he came out the door and took a left and walked down the hallway. And he must have been thinking real hard. He came back, went back in the room. Who came next? General Eisenhower.
Really?
And there again, he came down the corridor with his hands behind him in deep thought. I have a feeling, and I'm not a general, that they were, at that point, making plans to engage the German and Italians over there in Sicily. They were making plans that far ahead of time. That's the way it looked to me. Because the war in North Africa was on its tail end, I think.
Right. So that's where you ended up then next after North Africa, right? You were part of that Italian campaign?
All of it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, where did the U.S. forces land when they invaded Italy then?
Italy, Salerno.
Oh, Salerno. Okay.
That was a fairly big operation. And the 1st Ranger Battalion, the 2nd and 3rd Ranger Battalions, we had 3 battalions by now, we landed on the extreme left flank of that Salerno operation. It was a bad, bad deal again. And then there was British commandos to the right of us, to the left side of Salerno. The 36th Division, Texas Division, the Bad Luck Division.
Bad Luck Division?
Every place they went, they had trouble.
Oh, really? Okay.
And there was the 45th Division, a good division. And I think the 3rd Division landed someplace too, and that's all. What's our mission? Secure the town of Maori. It's a little fishing village, Maori. Boy, I got out of that landing craft in a hurry, and we had a wall like that. We had to climb up and over and get on the coast road there. And after we got up, I was the first sergeant at that point in F Company. And I shouldn't say this, but they had an officer, I think he must have been a replacement officer. And he came out and says, "Don, I don't know how to read a map." "No, you tell me." I says, "Captain, that's all right, I'll get you up there." I had to get the whole company up this mountain up for 4,000 or 5,000 feet up there. And after we got up there and fanned out where we're supposed to be, then I could oversee the Bay of Naples. Beautiful picture up there. Mount Vesuvius behind it. The Bay of Naples down there. So we went up there and occupied that high ground for about the next 3 weeks. And it was touch and go whether we would be able to stay on that beachhead. In fact, I understand that General Clark was thinking about making some movements and taking us all off the beach and taking us back to Sicily. That's how contested it was. We hung on. We got hung on there, and we held our ground. And finally, the 8th Army came up from Messina. They were awful slow in coming, that 8th Army. They were supposed to come up and relieve us. Where are they? Where are they? Where are they? Finally got up, and the Germans then pulled back up the boot. And so then after that, Naples area got cleared out, and the Bay of Naples got open. We had some shipping that came in there. We used it as a port. And we got a little relief. It says we're going to go down to Sorrento, and we're going to stay down there for a little while as a rest. And fine with me. So I took the first platoon into Sorrento. I wish I could go back there tomorrow. So I finally got down into town there, and I needed a haircut real bad then. I had hair then. I got down in and I told the guys, I'm getting a haircut, and I'm putting up a roadblock on this coast road outside of town here. If anything happens, let me know. I got into that barber's chair there, and I don't think I'd sat down more than 5 minutes or less. That's why she was cutting loose out there in that roadblock. I was out of that barber's chair with my M1 rifle right now. Up the road, this coast road, comes a German staff car. What are they doing here? Don't they know that the invasion took place here? Evidently not. I think they really had some girls they were going to date that night in the town of Sorrento. I really mean it. There was 4 of them in that car. They tried to get out. Those 4 guys, they tried to get out of there, getting that, it was a, what they kind of, Volkswagen. They were underpowered, and they were,
Right.
This one they had, it was all wore out, I think, that Volkswagen then. They captured one. One got away. They killed two. Took them all. And I hung on to that Volkswagen as long as I was in Toronto.
Well, Don, it wasn't too long after that you were captured, right?
It wasn't too long after that. And then we got settled into a hotel there. Tramontano Hotel. That's the name of it. And I got this yellow jaundice. I guess that was yellow jaundice. That was very, very predominantly over there, this yellow jaundice and malaria, those two things. And they had nothing to give you. All they do is put you in the hospital for malaria, yellow jaundice. Old Doc Hardenbrook says, I can't help you, but try and get some white bread or some candy or something. That's about all I can get you, and I don't have any of that. Then's when that next mission came. Up on the Volturno River. That's a river comes down, cuts Italy in half. And we have a mission up there. We didn't know what it was yet. And he came up to this hotel room where I was sicker than a dog. I mean, I was sick, weak. And he came up and took my temperature and all that stuff. He said, Don, I don't want you to go on that mission. Well, I says, they tell me it's going to be a one-day mission that will be relieved. And after that, if I can't hack it anymore, then put me in the hospital. That's the way the agreement went. Well, they never came back. I took the platoon up there and crossed the Volturno River that night. We had 12 miles to walk up into the mountains.
And you're sick.
That's a long ways climbing mountains, dark, wet, cold. And let's see, I got into our position where we wanted to be. And that position was fairly high ground. It overlooked the Italian town, small town of San Pietro. And to the right of that was another little town, Venafro, those two. And our mission was to go in there between those two towns. There's a hairpin turn, got a big hairpin turn there. Go in there and hold that hairpin turn and prevent German armor infantry from getting through there. I says, what are you talking about? We've got no support. We have no artillery support. We got no air support. We got nothing but an M1 rifle. Are you going to stop a Panzer division with that? Don't tell me that. That morning, there was 3 companies of us. We got into this ravine right before the 2 towns that we were facing down in the valley. And I just got my commission in Toronto before this mission. And Captain Nye was our company commander, good guy from California. And I just sat down and I told the guys, well, get something to eat, don't move around, stay under cover, have your last smoke. And Captain Nye came down and said, Don, come on, you and I are going out ahead. We had no time to stop or nothing. I was tired, and I'm sure he was too. But anyway, we went for another quarter of a mile ahead. We got up on this edge of this ravine there, and I could look down and see Venafro here, San Pietro over here, small town, on this little Highway 6. We saw our hairpin turned on her. We were supposed to hold and occupy. While I was looking at that, I saw one company of German infantry right below me. I mean, right below me. He hadn't seen it, my captain hadn't seen him yet. And he says, Don, I think we'd better get a platoon up here. I said, what are you talking about? There's over a company of them down here, a lot more than one platoon. And I looked, put my glasses out a little further. There was 2 more companies coming toward me. Maybe a couple hundred yards away, came around the bend. So now I got 3 companies. What would you do? Well, I told Captain Nye, you and I are right over the thing here. You know what the dummy said? Oh, I shouldn't call him that, but he says, Don, you cover me. I'm going to stand up and make motions for him to surrender. Make motions for him to surrender. Oh, now you tell me. So he did that. He stood up, making motions. And I think those Germans said, what's going on here? Those can't be our troops. Well, they can't be American troops because they're too far in, 12 miles beyond the lines. We were 12 miles beyond the lines. And they came to a sudden stop, these 3 German companies. And so I told Captain Nye, I says, well, what do you want to do now? He wanted to bring a platoon up. I says, I tell you, Captain, the least we can do is bring 1 company up, 60 men. And none of the companies were full strength at that time. They weren't. So he agreed to that. Bring 1 company up. And he says, when they come up here, you're going to be the first one to see them. And I says, yeah. I had a radio operator with me, but we had these walkie-talkies. They were worthless. Worthless. You couldn't get anybody on them in the mountains because your signals, diagonal signals don't go through the mountains. So luckily we had the man there, and we sent him back. I says, get your butt back there and bring at least 1 company up. Bring E company up. That was my company. And after he did that and came back, I sent half the E company over to Captain Nye, to my left flank. And I stayed where I was. I was closest to the Germans there. And, but the Germans, they started coming up the hill. They couldn't figure this out. They thought we were German troops, you know. They couldn't figure us out yet. And pretty soon they got closer, closer, and closer. And my radio operator came back with the 1 company. I took a platoon, and I took a platoon. And I got them into firing positions there. And the Germans still started walking up the hill toward us. And after they got about, I suppose, 150 yards away, I said, fellas, this is close enough. This is close enough. Put them down, put them down. So the fight was on. I kind of think that Germans, after they saw Captain Nye and myself and the radio operator, thought we were just a very, very small patrol out there. That's what I think. You didn't realize we had as few as men as we had, but we were few, and there was only 3 of us out there. And I think that's what they thought. Well, this is going to be a big pushover, so as far as they're concerned. They dropped, a lot of men they had dropped, because they were right out in the wide open. It was just like catching them out on the side of a wide open out there. We had fairly good positions. They couldn't see us. We were on big rocks and everything. They came up the side of this slope, you know, and there was this bear. So we put them down. They left their casualties behind. They ran off the slope there. And I didn't think they'd come back again, but they did. They came back again the second time. Same thing all over again. Same thing all over again. And I noticed my BAR gunner, this new guy, wasn't using that gun. Made me kind of mad. It's the only big firepower I had. And I ran down to this kid. To this day, I don't know his name. I says, I want you, soldier, to get this BAR going, and I want you to keep it hot. In fact, I went down there and I emptied the first clip for him, 20 rounds. Now, I don't know if I did that or not, but I think it helped. Either that kid was petrified or scared or something's wrong. And I was a little disturbed. Because none of my men I'd trained with would have done that. I know it. But anyway, they ran them off the second time. Left their casualties behind. They had about half a dozen mules on there, and a mule train, you know, they went down too. I don't know, they were carrying up ammunition or food or something up to us. But the mules were put down too. And they did come back the third time. We ran them off the third time. In the meantime, I had, I had a couple of guys that ran down the slope. They were going down there to attend. A couple German wounded.
Oh,
or
really?
Dead or something. They were going down to see if they could give them some aid. Well, I got down there, and I didn't send them down there. They got put down. They got put down, these two kids. I saw it happen. The firing had more or less quit. They evidently had withdrew. So I worked myself down to where these two of our guys were on the ground. I didn't know what to expect. I was the only officer there that had morphine syrettes. You know what they are.
Yes.
And I went down there. Neither one of them were talking. Neither one were moving. I took their pulse, and they were both gone. They were both gone. There was nothing I could do. And so I turned over, rolled over. I was going to take a dog tag from each one of them. And right above me, the hill right above me there, there was about 8 German soldiers saw me down there. And they came down like that toward me. I could have dumped 4 or 5 of them maybe. I could have got them. It didn't help me any. They could have got me also. But they picked me up. They got me. And this is getting late in the afternoon now. Seemed like that battle was going on all day long there. But anyway, late in the afternoon, I was being held down in Venafro, Smetana, Venafro. And there was a German officer that pulled up, and he says, are you Lieutenant Frederick? Yeah. He says, are you sure? I says, yes. He held his hand out. Congratulations on the fine firefight we had today.
Wow.
But, he says, why were so many of my men shot through the head. I says, the only thing I can answer, he was a lieutenant. I chased you off that hill 3 times. He says, you did. You did. He admitted it. Perfect English.
Mm-hmm.
And I drove you off there 3 times. And I said, that's the only target my men had. You fell back evidently into prepared positions. I didn't know you had. If that's all that was exposed was your head and a foxhole, that's the only target my men had. He bought that.
So you ended up being interrogated. Where did you spend most of the time that you were prisoner of war?
Poland.
In Poland.
In Poland.
And you were prisoner of war for how long?
Not quite 2 years, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was in solitary confinement. Down through Berlin, they brought me down to Luckenwald. There was another concentration camp, if you want to call it. And they threw me into a little cell. Had one little table in there. Had one little chair. And one little bed there that was full of straw and bed bugs and everything else.
I imagine.
And they had one window up about 8 feet tall. It was wide open. This is in November and December now.
Wow.
It was cold in hell, and I didn't have any heat, much less anything to eat. But I stayed there for 30 days, and I was interrogated by Captain Williams, or Williams. If that guy was here yesterday, I'd have put him down. He spoke perfect English. He gave me a little of his background when I first went in to be interrogated at 2 o'clock in the morning. There was a little light up in the ceiling up there in my cell. It was on all the time. All the time. You never knew when they were going to pull you out for interrogation. And so that happened, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. The first time he brought me down at 2 o'clock in the morning, he shook his hand or shook my hand, and how about a cigarette? No, I don't smoke. And so he wanted to start the interrogation. And I says, Captain, I can only tell you one thing, my name, rank, and phone number. The Articles of War tells me that's all I can tell you. He clapped his hands, and 2 guards came in and threw me back in the slammer. That went on about 3 or 4 weeks. The last time he came in, he said, well, Don, I'm going to tell you this. You're missing in action. Nobody knows what happened to you. That's right. That's right. I'm missing in action. They can do with you whatever they want to do. But, see what I mean?
Definitely.
He's trying to threaten you now. I said, it's name, rank, and serial number. He threw me out again. That's the last time I saw the guy.
So Don, how did you end up getting? Was the war over then, and that's how you were? That's how you got out of prison, out of prison camp?
I was down at right north of Munich, a little ways, and General Patton came through with his Third Army. He came through the front gate at Luckenwald. It was a big, big camp. And I don't know, I must have been up there pretty close to that gate. I think it was a Sunday morning, I think. I got a diary on all of that stuff. Here's the diary I kept in prison camp. But anyway, he came through the gate. He stood up in his Jeep. And he looked around. And by God, I will have you men out of here in 48 hours. You know what he did?
He pretty much followed through with about anything he said he was going to do, didn't he, Patton?
I had my hand on his Jeep, just like this here. It was his Jeep when he stood up and said that. So he made his inspection and said what he was going to do, and he did it. I never seen so many C-47s come in north of camp in all my life. And some of the guys took off. I didn't take off. I had one friend that went down to the Eagle's Nest. You know what that is?
Oh, is that where? Is that down where Hitler had his?
That's where he had the redoubt, or whatever
right.
you want to call
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
That's where he had his beautiful mansion down
Right.
there.
Yes. Yeah.
And I had a friend that went down there. He wanted me to go with him. I didn't want to go. And he brought me back a box of Herman Goins cigars.
And now you're here to tell about it. Those are quite the story.
So I enjoyed that, and I passed those cigars around. And
Yeah. Well, Herman Goring wasn't going to be using them because he was at the war trials and
yeah,
ended up committing suicide. He took a cyanide
yeah,
capsule and
yeah,
they
yeah,
found
he
him
did.
dead in his cell.
But
Well, Don, thank you very
I don't know.
thank you very much for taking the
Well,
the time to share your story. And
It's fun to talk to people that enjoy parts of World War II. There's so much of it out there that will never be told. I know.
oh, that's right.
This is just my one case. And I got recalled for the Korean War. If you don't know, I got recalled again for the Korean War.
Oh my goodness.
So
Yeah, that's
here I am.
there you are.
But this is fun. It'll probably never happen again. I don't think I'll ever do this again. I don't think I will.
Well, I think that's why it's so important to get these stories and to hear what happened firsthand, because you're right. A lot of people don't know the stories of what happened to folks in World War II.
Right.
And there's a lot of people right here in Richfield that had their involvement in World War II was very significant, and we don't know that.
There's people 30, 40 years old don't even know what World War II was all about.
Right.
No, they don't.
And the truth of the matter is, when a lot of the servicemen came back from World War II, they didn't talk about it.
No, that's
They
right.
didn't want to talk about it.
You got that right. You got that right. Yeah.
And so a lot of the
They'd
stories,
had enough of it.
that's exactly right. They came back here, they wanted to forget about all of that.
They had enough.
Yeah.
They wanted to find a job and go back to work.
Yep, and just resume a normal life and forget about all that stuff. Well, thanks for joining us on another Out and About in Richfield. And, again, I thank Don for sharing his stories with us. And if you're interested in the U.S. Army Rangers and what happened at the raid at Dieppe, or what happened as the Rangers went through Italy, there's all kinds of books and there's all kinds of materials on that. You can find it on the internet. You can find it in your library. And if you haven't done it, I would encourage you to do it. So until we see you next time with another story Out and About in Richfield, take care.